Hey, what's going on, guys? It's Abyss for Shoes here, or Comic Legion Unlimited, depending on what platform you're watching this on. And today I thought I'd do a little bit of a different list. I thought I would rank every cinematically released Batman and Spider-Man film. Now, if you're wondering why Joker and Venom are here, that's because they're both Batman and Spider-Man characters, so I think they count to be included. So the way this tier list is going to work is I'm going to go from the oldest film released to the most current film released. And the way the tiers are going to work are S tier, A tier, and B tier are the best. C tier is good, but like it's not the best. D tier is like half good, half bad, but overall watchable. E tier is like bad, but like if I had to watch it, I could. F tier is like I would rather die than watch that. Okay, so starting off with the oldest on the list, we're going with Batman 66, and that's gonna go into B tier. Mainly because it was like it's still good and it's still one of the best, but like it was from before my time, so Adam West isn't exactly my Batman. My Batman is Kevin Conroy and Christian Bale, but like this Batman was simply before my time. It's a goofy movie and it's fun and silly. Who cares about that Avengers game? It's fun, it's goofy, silly. Adam West is a great Batman. Burt Ward's a great Robin. Cesar Romero's a great Joker, and everyone else. I think there was what was his name? There was the Riddler, Penguin, and Catwoman in the movie as well. They all did pretty good jobs, but overall, I'd say this movie is kind of a B. And also, I should mention, B tier is like, it's still one of the best, but it doesn't exactly have the quality of like an S tier film or an A tier film. So yeah, Batman 66 is B tier. Alright, what's up next? Ooh, Batman 89. That's gonna go in S tier for me. I love that movie. Like almost everything about it is great. I'd say the only real bad stuff in it was like when Batman was killing people. And that's about it. Other than that, it's a great movie. S tier. It's an absolute classic. Okay, up next, Batman Returns. That's gonna have to go in A tier for me. The way I see Batman Returns is I really like that movie. Like it's a good movie, but like I wouldn't say I love it necessarily. Like it's still one of the best, but like to say that I love it is kind of an overstatement because like I watched it recently not too long ago and it was kind of weird. Like it was more of a Tim Burton movie than a Batman movie. Like I feel like you could sit through Batman 89. Like if you skip the credits of that movie and you just like go straight to the movie, I feel like if you skipped all the credits, then you would probably sit through that movie and be like, hey, who made this? This is a good movie. I feel like with Batman 89, like as soon as that movie starts and you skip the credits or whatever, I feel like you could go through that movie and be like, oh yeah, Tim Burton made this. I can tell. Like it's just very obviously a Tim Burton movie, which isn't a bad thing. I'm just saying like it doesn't really feel much like a Batman movie. Like the first movie managed to have just the right amount of comic book style and Tim Burton style. This movie is kind of like 70-30. Like the 70 is the Tim Burton stuff and the 30 is the Batman stuff. So yeah, it's still a good movie. I think Michelle Pfeiffer is like the second best live action Batman villain, next to Heath Ledger. And yeah, it's a good movie. Anyways, up next. Next we have Batman Forever. My opinion has gone back and forth on this movie. Like, I don't like this movie, but I don't hate it. Like, originally, I used to hate this movie. Like, I would put it in F tier. Like, that's how much I used to hate it. But for me, it's more of a D tier now. Like, some of it's good and some of it's bad. But for the most part, it's watchable. Like, I think Val Kilmer, he's not my favorite Batman, but he does an okay job. Chris O'Donnell does a pretty good job as Robin, although he seems a little old to be playing Robin in that movie. He should be like Nightwing by that point. I know a lot of people love Jim Carrey's Riddler. He's an okay Riddler. I feel like he's a bit too goofy for me. Tommy Lee Jones is certainly not my favorite live-action Batman villain, but he's alright. Yeah, the whole movie is just kind of alright. Like, the whole movie is just kind of okay. Like, if I had to watch it again, I probably could, but I'd much rather watch, like, anything else. Okay, up next is, oh no, Batman and Robin. No surprises here. It's F tier. It's completely bad. For me, it's in my top 3. In terms of movies I hate the most, it's in my top 3. I do not like Batman and Robin at all. I legitimately hate that movie. Like, Arnold Schwarzenegger, terrible Mr. Freeze. George Clooney, terrible Batman. The girl that played, what's her name? Poison Ivy, terrible. Whole movie, just bad. I would never watch this movie ever again. It is so bad. I mean, the only thing that there really is to be grateful for with this movie is the fact that if it weren't for this movie, then we wouldn't have gotten the Dark Knight trilogy. I suppose that's the only thing I respect the movie for. Besides that, it's terrible. Oh, I almost skipped over Mask of the Phantasm. S tier. Great movie. Kevin Conroy, great Batman. Everyone was fantastic in that movie. Mark Hamill, my Joker. Yep, Mask of the Phantasm's going in S tier for me. Great movie. I don't really have much to say about that. Oh yeah, also the reveal of the Phantasm. Like the whole build-up towards who that was going to be is all great. S tier Batman movie. Okay, what's up next? Oh yes, Spider-Man. The first Raimi Spider-Man movie. A tier. Classic. Love that movie. Willem Dafoe, Green Goblin. S tier Spider-Man villain. Everything about that movie, well, almost everything about that movie was absolutely perfect. I'd say my only nitpicks about it were that I wasn't really too big of a fan of like the Power Ranger Green Goblin outfit. I know that's kind of like what a lot of people had, like that's kind of like the bone to pick that a lot of people had with this movie. But like overall, like Willem Dafoe still did a great job and everything. Tobey Maguire, best Spider-Man besides Josh Keaton for me. And yeah, they both did great jobs, and it's just a great movie overall. Kirsten Dunst is a great MJ. Everything about the movie was just, or almost everything about the movie was just damn near perfect. Up next, we got Spider-Man 2. S tier, no question. Alright, what's the next movie? Batman Begins. I'm going to put that at the top of A tier. Batman Begins, classic. Absolutely redefined the genre for Batman, because I know that, like, before this movie, Batman was kind of in, like, a dark place, because, you know, Batman and Robin kind of killed the franchise. So, like, Chris Nolan came in and was like, I'm going to change all of that. Batman's not going to be a joke anymore. Superhero movies ain't going to be a joke anymore. And then Batman Begins was amazing, and everybody respected superhero movies again. Okay, what's up next? Spider-Man 3. It's F tier, it's absolute garbage. No, I'm just kidding. I'm going to put Spider-Man 3 in C tier. Mostly because, like, it's a bit of a mixed bag. Because, like, I don't hate it by any means at all. Like, my dad, he kind of hates this movie. But that's whatever, like, that's just his opinion. I don't hate it because, like, I don't think it's as bad as most people make it out to be. Like, whenever someone's comparing, like, a bad movie in a franchise, they'll be like, oh, that's the Spider-Man 3 of the franchise. Like, Topher Grace Venom, he's not that good. Like, even I can agree, like, Topher Grace Venom wasn't that great. But the Sandman was a great villain. Sandman was an excellent villain. New Goblin, Harry Osborn becoming the New Goblin. Some people say he was bad. I thought he was good because he was being built up throughout that whole trilogy. He was being built up from Spider-Man 1, Spider-Man 2, and then finally in Spider-Man 3 when Harry Osborn is like, oh, I know that Peter is Spider-Man now. I want my revenge. So like he goes out to get Peter, becomes the New Goblin, and it's overall really good. Like his acting's really good. Emo Peter, like most people, I'm not too fond of it, but like the scenes where he's like dancing around in public and stuff is like, yeah, it's cringy, but like that's the point. Like that's kind of the point of the scene. Like it's meant to be cringy. Like it's meant to be like what Peter thinks a cool kid is, and like him hitting MJ at the bar and stuff, that was kind of messed up. Like that whole bar scene where he's like dancing around the music and stuff. It's kind of take it or leave it for me. But like the ending was pretty good. And like I know a lot of people were like disappointed that Spider-Man 4 didn't happen, and like I am too. Like I'm disappointed that Spider-Man 4 also didn't happen. But at the same time, I feel like Spider-Man 3 still delivered a satisfying conclusion. I feel like they almost made Spider-Man 3 as if like they made it to be like the end, like just in case Spider-Man 4 doesn't happen. We already had Spider-Man 3 give us a satisfying conclusion, like just in case the fourth movie doesn't happen. That's kind of how I felt Spider-Man 3 was. And yeah, overall, Spider-Man 3 is a C tier for me. Good, like 7 out of 10. Up next, The Dark Knight. Where's that going to go? Of course I know where it's going. Top of S tier. It's my favorite movie of all time. Why wouldn't it go in S tier? Heath Ledger is an amazing Joker. Although I prefer Mark Hamill over Heath Ledger, but like, still an amazing Joker. Top of S tier, Christian Bale, my favorite live-action Batman, next to Michael Keaton. Like, the acting is great, the script is great, like, the whole story is great. Although the third act isn't exactly my favorite, but it's still great. Everything about the movie is just great. Okay, let's see what we got next. I want to say The Amazing Spider-Man is next, but is there anything that came before it? No, looks like there's nothing that came before it. The Amazing Spider-Man 1. If I can just put it in C tier. There we go. Now, The Amazing Spider-Man 1 is kind of an odd movie to me because I've always seen it as a Spider-Man movie that's trying a bit too hard to copy the style of the Nolan Batman trilogy. Like, essentially like what the Nolan Batman trilogy is, it's Batman put into a realistic setting. That's what they tried to do with The Amazing Spider-Man, and I think it just didn't translate very well because like Spider-Man's not a very realistic character, if that makes sense. Like, sure, Batman's not realistic, but like I feel like he's a character that can more easily translate because like he's just he's a rich guy that can fight. What the fuck? Like Batman's just a rich guy that can fight criminals. Spider-Man is like a teenager that was bitten by a radioactive spider. And like if they were to take that and put that into a realistic setting, like a teenager getting bitten by a radioactive spider, like shouldn't that kill him? Wouldn't that kill someone if they're bitten by a spider that's radioactive? Like I understand they gotta let in some fantastical elements for the film to work. But like if you're trying to make realistic Spider-Man, then like realistically Peter should be dead. And like overall, it's an alright watch. Like if I were to pick out a movie to watch, this certainly wouldn't be my first choice. But like if somebody did put it on, then like I'd probably watch through it, you know. But overall, it's kind of like a 6 out of 10 for me, and C tier because like they tried to put him in a realism setting, and like the Lizard's not exactly a realistic character. Like a person that can turn into a lizard, that's not exactly realistic. The Nolan Batman films took the realism setting and made it work because like Batman characters are more easy to translate into a realistic setting. Like they kind of had to tweak Joker's origin a bit, where he's not like some guy that fell into a vat of chemicals. He's just a terrorist in clown makeup. like with the reptile, I mean not reptile, with the lizard in the Amazing Spider-Man, I feel like they should have just gone for a different villain. Like I know that Sony, like the reason why the lizard was the villain in that movie was because like for some reason Sony was just really aching to see the lizard in live action. So they were just like, okay, put Lizard in this movie, make him the main villain, and then do whatever else you want to do with the movie, Mark Webb. So then, yeah, then we got the Amazing Spider-Man. I mean, like, I was hoping we would have gotten a fourth Spider-Man movie, but then again, so was everybody else on the face of the earth. So yeah, that's my opinions on the Amazing Spider-Man. Up next, we got the Dark Knight Rises. That's gonna have to go at the top of B for me. I have surprisingly seen this movie get a lot of hate that it doesn't deserve. Because, like, I can understand certain criticisms of the movie, but, like, The Dark Knight Rises isn't bad. Like, just because I've heard people say that they straight up hate this movie. And I'm just like, why would you hate this movie? Like, sure, it's not the perfect movie, but, like, hate is a strong word. If you want to say you don't like this movie, then that's fine, because I've seen plenty of people that don't like the Dark Knight trilogy, and, you know, that's just how it is. They should probably get their brain checked, but, you know, that's just how it is. Like, The Dark Knight Rises, it's certainly the low point, and it's certainly the least best. Like, I hate calling it the worst, because, like, that would imply that it's a bad movie. It's just the least best, because, like, I know it has the most plot holes out of all the Dark Knight films, but then again, every movie on the face of the earth has plot holes, so it's not like this is new. But yeah, for a Christopher Nolan film, it's a bit sloppy. The script certainly could have been better. Like, The Dark Knight Rises certainly could have been leagues better, but that doesn't take away the fact that it's still really good. So overall, for me, it's about an 8 out of 10. That's what I give The Dark Knight Rises. Like, I give The Dark Knight a 10 out of 10, I give Batman Begins a 9 out of 10, and Dark Knight Rises an 8 out of 10. That's my opinions on the Dark Knight trilogy. Oh, and technically Gotham Knight is part of the Dark Knight trilogy, but that's a huge technically. Like, it's part canon, but it's part not. And I give that movie an 8 out of 10 as well. Okay, let's see what movie we're dealing with next. The Amazing Spider-Man 2. Well, what are my opinions on that movie? It's certainly not a terrible movie, but even I can agree that it's definitely the low point of Spider-Man movies. Like, it's the worst of all the Spider-Man movies. Like, yeah, it's the Batman and Robin of Spider-Man movies, but then again, that would imply that The Amazing Spider-Man 2 is god-awful, and that I would hate to watch it. And I don't hate to watch it. In fact, there are a lot of things in The Amazing Spider-Man 2 that I like Peter's costume, and the soundtrack, and yeah, that's kind of it. But, like, it's still watchable. Like, sure, like, the movie is kind of bad. I mean, like, not even kind of bad. Like, the movie just is bad, because it focuses on too many plot lines at once, and Sony was basically, they were more worried about setting up a cinematic universe than they were about making a good movie. That's why The Amazing Spider-Man 2 turned out so bad, because it was just focusing on setting up stuff when it should have just been focusing on being a Spider-Man movie. It was too focused on setting up future movies that it forgot to just be a movie. Like, they were setting up like a Black Cat movie, they were setting up a Venom movie, they were setting up like a Sinister Six movie, and like a Spider-Man 2099 movie. And like, it sounds like, from the sounds of it, it sounds like The Amazing Spider-Man 3 was going to be pretty similar, where it was just going to focus on too many things at once. And normally I say they shouldn't have pulled the plug just because The Amazing Spider-Man 2 sucked. But I heard that The Amazing Spider-Man 3 was basically just going to be a rehash of Amazing Spider-Man 2, where it was too focused on setting up future stuff. So in that case, I think that it was a good idea for Sony to pull that plug. But The Amazing Spider-Man 2, I wouldn't say it's the most enjoyable watch, but like I somewhat enjoyed it. But it's far from my favorite Spider-Man movie. Like I put it at the bottom of Spider-Man movies. But that's not saying much because most Spider-Man movies have been pretty good. I'd say this was the only like really bad Spider-Man movie, you know. And yeah, overall for me, Amazing Spider-Man 2 gets 5 out of 10. Alright, what movie do we have next? Batman v Superman. Come on. Come on. Go at the top. There we go. Oh man, I have a long and complicated history with this movie. So when I first saw this in theaters, I was like 11 years old, and I really liked it. Like back when I first saw it, I would have given this movie like an A. But as time has gone on, I've kind of grown to not like it more. Mostly because I saw this movie when I was 11, so it's not like my taste was exactly the best thing ever. Like I even thought that, I even thought that Arkham Knight was the best Arkham game for a while. Yeah, my taste definitely evolved. But yeah, like Batman v Superman, like it's okay at best. Like that's the most I can give it, that it's okay, because it has some really good action scenes. I'd argue that most of them are much better than the Nolan film action scenes, because like most of the scenes in the Nolan films, when it comes to like one-on-one fights between Batman and a bunch of goons, you know, those ones aren't that good in the Nolan films, because I think Nolan's just not exactly a good choreographer when it comes to one-on-one action scenes. And I feel like Zack Snyder just kind of did a better job at the fight scenes in his movie. And the Nolan films kind of lacked in that area, so that's one thing I can respect from Batman v Superman. Oh, and the costume designs were great. Like Ben Affleck, he was a good Batman. Like the movie sucked, but he did a good job as Batman. Henry Cavill also did a good job as Superman. Jesse Eisenberg, certainly not the best Lex Luthor. Like, he's like, just no. Like, no, he's not that good. And Doomsday looked disgusting. Like, he looked like the fucking 2014 Michael Bay Ninja Turtles. Like, he looked like a retarded version of one of those. And, he was just gross to look at. So, yeah, Batman v Superman gets, like, a 5.5 out of 10 for me. Oh, yeah, also, I think I forgot to rate the other movies. Batman Forever gets a 5 out of 10 from me. Batman and Robin gets a 1 out of 10 from me. And that's probably the only bone I'm ever going to throw it. Batman 66 gets like 7.5 out of 10. I already rated the Nolan films. Batman Returns gets an 8.5. Actually, no, I give it like a 9 out of 10. I give Spider-Man 1 a 9 out of 10. Spider-Man 2 a 10 out of 10. Phantasm 10 out of 10. 89, 10 out of 10. And yeah, those are my ranking of all these movies so far. Obviously, we still have those other movies down there to get to. Now let's see what's up next. Is it a Spider-Man movie or a Batman movie? Ah yes, Batman the Killing Joke. I'd put that one in E tier. Anyways, back to what I was doing. So, Batman the Killing Joke. First of all, the Killing Joke is kind of overrated. Like, the comic is kind of overrated, but, like, I still really like the comic. Like, it's still, like, really good, but, like, I wouldn't say it's as good as people give it credit for. I feel like it's kind of overhyped. Like, there are certainly better Batman stories than The Killing Joke. But I'm glad it got an animated adaptation. What I'm not glad about was how the animated adaptation turned out. Kind of like how Batman Hush is a great story. I wouldn't call that overrated. Like, Hush is one of the best. So is The Killing Joke, but it's overrated. Hush isn't overrated, but like, I'm glad that Hush got an animated adaptation, but I hate how they butchered the storyline. Same with The Killing Joke. Like, the animation in the movie's kind of weird. Like, I know that they were just trying to make it more like a modern DC animated movie where like the animation kind of looks like that, but like the whole plot line with like the goon hitting on Batgirl and the Batman ex Batgirl stuff was kind of weird. But like, if you just like removed all of that, like let's say you like cut all that stuff out and then you just left in the part where it's an animated adaptation, then it's still a good movie. Like, I don't see why they could have just had that. Like, I don't see why they had to add in all that unnecessary stuff just to make the movie longer. I feel like that was kind of dumb. And like, yeah, like, it's bad but watchable. Like, you just have to skip through the whole first couple of minutes not couple of minutes. I think it lasts like 30 to 40 minutes maybe. Yeah, you just have to cut through all that and just watch like the animated adaptation, like the part that's actually the animated adaptation, then it's a good movie. But that first 40 minutes just kind of kills it. So I give it like a 3 out of 10, 4 out of 10 maybe. And it goes in the E tier for me. Okay, let's see what we got here next. Spider-Man Homecoming. That's gonna have to go in A tier for me, but where do I want it? Do I want it above Batman Returns? No, I don't think I do. Spider-Man Homecoming. It's a really good movie. I like it. I still don't know if I prefer Andrew Garfield over Tom Holland as Spider-Man, because like Tom Holland is like his Spider-Man like is very inaccurate to the comics. I think High Top Films has already given us explanations on top of explanations as to why, and I think it's just obvious that he's not a very accurate Spider-Man, but he does an alright job. Like, I think his performance is good. I just don't think his Spider-Man is exactly top tier. Like, if I had to make a tier list of Spider-Man rankings, he'd go in like C tier. That's actually a good idea. I might do that. He'd go in like C tier for me. Because he's like good, but he's not exactly my favorite. And like Michael Keaton's Vulture, absolutely great. I'd say he's like top 3 in terms of live action Spider-Man villains. I looked at this poster and I noticed that MJ girl that Peter's hitting on in the second movie, I noticed that she's on the poster for Homecoming, and I'm like, why? She did like nothing in that movie. But it's whatever. I feel like they could have cut out the stuff with Iron Man. Like, the stuff with Iron Man was kind of pointless. I think it was just because like Sony really wanted people to know that this new Spider-Man is part of the MCU. And like, yeah, the Iron Man stuff could have been cut out. That was kind of unnecessary. But like, overall, it's like a good 9 out of 10 for me. Most of the stuff that goes in A tier is going to be a 9 out of 10. So yeah, like, Spider-Man Homecoming gets a 9 out of 10 for me, and it's going in A tier. Alright, what do we have next? Oh, I completely skipped over Lego Batman. That's going to go into B tier for me. I really like the Lego Batman movie. Hold on, let me move my cursor, that's going to bug me. I still really like the Lego Batman movie, but I feel like it came out at the wrong time. Like, it came out in 2017, where I was in like 7th grade. My taste was kind of getting a little more mature. Like, I was kind of more into like more adult stuff. I still like kids movies and all that. Like, kids movies are still great, but I kind of prefer more adult stuff now. I feel like if the Lego Batman movie came out when I was in like 2nd or 3rd grade, then I definitely would have enjoyed it a lot more, and it probably would have been my favorite Batman movie. Because like, when I was in like 2nd and 3rd grade, like, I loved Legos and I loved Batman, and I still love Batman now, but like, Legos, I kind of just like them now. But yeah, like if this movie came out at a different time, I would definitely think of it a lot differently than I do now. But it's still a pretty good movie. Like, Will Arnett's a good Batman, Michael Cera's a good Robin. I forget what her name was that plays Batgirl in this movie, but like, if I recall, I think she's playing Catwoman in the new Matt Reeves Batman movie. I could be wrong about that, but I think so. But yeah, she does a good job as Batgirl in this movie. Zach Galifianakis was a pretty good Joker. He's not my favorite, but he's a good Joker. And yeah, overall, still a good movie. 8 out of 10 from me. Alright, what movie is up next? I think there was one more movie that came out in 2017. Oh yeah. Do I want it in E tier actually? I'm very glad we're getting that Snyder Cut because 2017 Justice League is literally just modern Batman and Robin. Okay, what other films are up next? Okay, so I know Spider-Verse and Venom are up next because they both came out in 2018, but which one came out first? Oh, it was Venom. Yeah, Venom came out around like Halloween, and like Spider-Verse came out like a week before Christmas, I think. I'm going to put Venom at move out of the way, Spider-Man 3. I'm going to put Venom at the top of C tier because like it's a very odd movie. Like I feel like the movie doesn't really know what it is. Like a lot of people are wondering, like, does this take place in the MCU? Does this take place in the Mark Webb Spider-Man universe? Like, are they continuing the Mark Webb verse, or is this a continuation of the MCU? I don't know why I keep wanting to say MCU universe, but then I'm basically just saying Marvel Cinematic Universe universe. It's kind of like how a lot of people say DC Comics, even though they're literally just saying comics twice. So, I think Venom might be in the MCU, but I'm not too sure about that. Tom Hardy, he's a great Venom. Like, he's much better than Topher Grace, that's for sure. He does a really good job of portraying the duality between Eddie Brock. Eddie Brock, that's his name. Eddie Brock and Venom. He definitely does a good job of portraying the duality between the two. The Venom villain. Who was the villain again? I know the villain was like some evil guy in a tuxedo that gets another symbiote, but like he was pretty forgettable. Wasn't a big fan of him. What else is in that movie? Oh yeah, Eddie Brock's girlfriend gets taken over by the symbiote for a small amount of time. Like, the symbiote goes into like some little, like, Eddie loses the symbiote and then it goes to like a dog, I think. Yeah, it goes into like a little chihuahua or something. And then Eddie's girlfriend gets the symbiote from the dog. How does she even know that the dog has a symbiote? That always kind of confused me. And then she goes back to Eddie and gives him back the symbiote. I thought that was kind of weird. The part where Eddie like jumps in the fish tank, or like, sorry, the lobster tank. That was funny. I thought that was a funny scene because I heard that was completely improvised. Like, that wasn't even in the script at all. But yeah, the movie's pretty alright. It wouldn't be my first choice if I was gonna watch a movie, but it's okay. It's all good. Next movie, Into the Spider-Verse. My favorite Spider-Man movie. No, not above Phantasm. Go below Phantasm. And above Spider-Man 2. Into the Spider-Verse. S tier. No questions asked. Like, absolutely great animation. Like, just the whole voice cast is amazing. Even for like characters that were underutilized, it was amazing. Like, still my favorite Spider-Man movie besides Spider-Man 2. Would watch it again. I've actually only seen it like 3 times, and every time it was freaking amazing. Okay, next movie. Spider-Man Far From Home. Move. Go in front of Venom. For me, Spider-Man Far From Home was kind of, for me, Far From Home was like the most meh Spider-Man movie I've ever seen. Like, I didn't love it, but I didn't hate it. Like, Spider-Man has some pretty good outfits in that movie. Like, I know that he goes from, like, his standard suit to the Stark suit to, like, the Shield suit. I think that's what it's called, like, or the Night Monkey suit to, like, sorry, to a homemade suit. Well, not the homemade suit, like the first one he ever has, but, like, he makes his own suit eventually that has red and black. I thought he had a very wide variety of suits in that movie, for sure. Jake Gyllenhaal was a pretty good Mysterio. I'd say he's like an A-tier Spider-Man villain, or at least in terms of live action. A-tier or B-tier for me. Like, I didn't love his performance or anything, because, like, he did an alright job. He's pretty good. What else was in that movie? I wasn't too big of a fan of, like, Tony Stark giving Peter a pair of glasses that can, like, control all of Stark Tech technology and all of that. I thought that was kind of dumb. Like, why would you give a teenager that much power? And why did Peter give the glasses to Mysterio, a guy that he met like a day ago? Like, that was stupid. What else is in the movie? I also don't really like how MCU Spider-Man villains have all been like people that Tony Stark screwed over. I think it makes more sense for a Spider-Man villain to have some sort of connection to Peter rather than just being some guy that Tony Stark fired. Like, that stuff's kind of dumb. But it's alright. Yeah, Spider-Man Homecoming is like the most meh Spider-Man film I've ever seen. Besides the other two Spider-Man films on that list, it's the most meh Spider-Man film ever. But it's still good. And alright, and the last movie on this list, Joker. S tier. Joaquin Phoenix, great Joker. Absolutely amazing Joker, Joaquin Phoenix. The whole stuff with Frank Murray was really good. Everything about the movie was just great. It was certainly a step up for DC, that's for sure. Because I know that, like, the past few years they've had tons of movies that were hit and miss, like, most of them miss. And even, like, after Joker came out, they released Birds of Prey, which was, like, I'd say half hit, half miss. But yeah, Joker was a great movie. Would watch again. Absolutely love it. I've only seen it a few times because I don't want to watch it too many times because then it'll kind of, like, ruin the magic. But yeah, like, great movie, great acting, like, just great all around. 10 out of 10. I'm sorry, 10 out of 10. S tier. There we go. S tier. And yeah, that's gonna do it for my ranking of every Batman and Spider-Man cinematically released film. If I missed any films, which I'm sure I didn't because I looked over like 1,000 times, be sure to let me know in the comments. Be sure you like and subscribe, or like and follow if you're watching this on Instagram. And I'll see everyone next time. Peace.